Hello to one and all. I hope everybody's good out there. And thank you for joining me in today's video, which is about the Kevin Samuels effect that remains with us even though he recently passed. Kevin Samuels had a huge following of especially men. He was very well respected in the manosphere as a relationship advisor. And it is a tragedy to have lost his soul so unexpectedly. Condolences to his loved ones. And we know that the fellas tuned in to watch Kevin Samuels, hear what he had to say, because he was like a defender of men. He took on this role of like being a kind of superhero, super uncle to men, not helping really damsels in distress or women, but men. And he was quick to pass judgment on females, particularly sisters. And he didn't do a lot of deliberating. He was very swift with his judgment. No. Kevin Samuels boiled his opinions down to just mathematics, basically. Numbers. And men loved him for that because it's hard to argue with numbers. It's just the truth. Unless you really know what you're talking about. You know something about what you're talking about. But in addition to the way Kevin assigned value to women or devalued women a lot of times with his ranking system, he put women on blast, insulting them. I could just say insulting. And that might be one of the biggest reasons that so many men tuned into his show. You can take a listen for yourself.
Look at these looks on, arguing. Look at this. Look at Lonnie Love's face. Unmarried, never married, Lonnie Love. Unmarried, never married, Lonnie Love. Remember what I said? All the brothers are asking for is fit. Lonnie Love ain't been fit for a long time. Cooperative, knock it out. She does have the single part though. And then right down over here, we have none other than another washed up B-list actress who thinks she's got her opinion matters for something. Before you saw her on the Steve Harvey show, she was throwing rose petals at Prince Akeem, or what was Eddie Murphy's character? She was one of them Zamunda rose throwing women. That's who she was. That's her. Zamunda rose thrower. Look at her with this thing stuck on top of her head. You know that ain't her hair. It's stuck on top of her head. Now let's see. Unfit, weave. Fit, weave. You can't get rid of the weave. I'm sorry. Well, as we keep on going, here's what it got down to.
Equality in marriage only breeds resentment.
So you see there, he came at the ladies. Couple strange things. He talked about the fact that he didn't want people trolling. And he seems to have done the same thing himself. He didn't want the hateration, basically. And he was coming with the negativity. And also, it's just obvious how he came at the sisters about the hair. And actually, I would bet that all four of these women had some pieces in their hair, but it doesn't matter because the modern woman that is in entertainment and getting styled, even just women in general, even men sport hair pieces. If they want to rock it, they rock it. People just express themselves in that way. I don't know what's up with this man sometimes, but it's like triggering to hear these things for a lot of people. And I'm not saying that all men approved of Kevin Samuels' style. A lot of y'all done heard him many, many times, and he's coming at the sisters. That's not embellishing. That's not stretching the truth. That's not being overly sensitive. He's like coming at them about the weaves, and I think all of those women on that panel had a piece of something in their hair. You know, with women being styled in a modern world, that's like kind of like wearing fake eyelashes, but it doesn't matter. A woman doing what makes her feel empowered, or if that's her expression, so be it. And you know, people come for each other online. People do that. But it's kind of surprising to see such a distinguished looking man going at women like that. It's really something. Men do love to talk about the numbers. They can relate to a quick, easy ranking system, you know, that cuts through the chase, kind of makes them feel like they know what they're dealing with. Men do this all the time. People do this all the time. But men particularly, you know, they just love numbers. A lot of times when men discuss the top athletes, it's all about stats. We all been with a pack of men that like going on about LeBron James or Michael Jordan, Kobe, my boy Kobe. It's all about points per game, free throw averages, how many 3-pointers they hit, how many assists, just basically bottom lining things with numbers. Because normally numbers don't lie. But actually, numbers don't even begin to speak to human passion and spirit, will and drive. It just doesn't reach that. We all know this because we heard all those phrases like against all odds so many times, or just when you counted them out. But then again, we all, men and women alike, we rank things. But Mr. Samuels wasn't just about the numbers. What keeps getting mentioned time and time again about him is how cold-blooded he would be about his assessments of women. And it got very personal, as we just heard. Yeah, but people get down online like that. They come at each other, you know, online beefs. But a distinguished looking man like this, with this kind of kitchen table talk, you know, men talk like this, is locker room talk, but coming for these women like this, these women are like household names. Kevin, he came hard at Lonnie Love. He came at Vivica Fox, Garcelle. I mean, Mr. Samuels has raised a lot of controversy on these YouTube streets and on his Instagram Live during the last years of his life. Now, he was not always that way, but I'm not gonna get into that today. This is like an evolution. This is really in recent years, and it just seems like it's a game he chose to play for profits. And he generates his revenue largely at the expense of Black women. You know, I could see Donald Trump embracing him, really. Inviting him over to the Oval Office right along with Candace Owens. Yeah, don't y'all, that might have been an ambition of his. That he was looking for that kind of connection. Now that I think about it. And he would have been a hit at a Trump rally. He would have been a big hit at a Trump rally. With the proper introduction, of course. I could just see Trump saying, my fellow Americans, I got a real treat for you. Wait till you hear this guy. You're gonna love him. You know I'm not lying. That's the way men like him can be used, that the way he was behaving. Okay, but was that just a persona? But there's no question there was more to Kevin Samuels than what meets the eye. He presented himself with much swag, nice packaging here, always in his Sunday best. Men welcomed him with open arms, along with some women. He was embraced by the community. But for women, he was like a Trojan horse, especially for Black women. Very, very shiny on the outside. He's a smooth one with a lot of superficial appeal, slick tongue. He knew how to talk. He actually remind me a lot of men that I'm familiar with. And I could imagine that under different circumstances, I could have a cool conversation with him. He knows how to have a conversation, but not on his show. I don't think I would have been interested in that. But he positions himself as an ally of men. He comes off very smooth, but you got to know what a Trojan horse is and what that does to a community that accepts one, and he didn't seem to mind hurting women. It's almost like he took pleasure in it. And my first impression of him while he was still alive is I thought he was very interesting, type of entertainer. This is before his passing. I watched one single interview that he did, and I watched it all the way through. It may have been the Vlad interview. He talked about his origin story. He was sharing a bit about his background and how he arrived at what he does and the way he branded himself. And I knew then that this dude is something else. And I did what he does. I listened to him, and then I evaluated what he was offering, and I decided, if I want relationship advice, I have my go-tos. And he's more of an entertainer. But since he's passed, I really did think it was very, very sad. And I started mainly out of curiosity to figure out if he really did pass. And then it's like, what really happened to this man? Because it was just in the last year that I ran across him. And then this is not good news. We know that this is not good news. And although I was not a follower of his, I do get why people tune into him. He was a talented guy. And a lot of people loved his no nonsense approach to dating, if you want to call it that. He was very straightforward. It was a straightforward approach, maybe not practical overall, making sense in a lot of situations, but he presented himself as that advisor. But he really was more of a shock jock, and I think that's something else that people enjoyed about him. And his messaging was not meant to be gentle, just like Howard Stern. He's not gentle, and he tells truths, but it's not about healing. It's about that shocking, cold, blunt, opinionated, with no hesitation to criticize, even insult you a little bit. That's what he had going on. But there's a lot of entertainment value in that. And Kevin Samuels was not dumb at all. He knew that this was profitable for him, but it was a mix with him. He articulated his message very well when he wasn't bashing people, namely women, Black women in particular. But come on, grading a woman like a cut of beef, that's not gonna go over well with females nowhere in the world, unless you are presenting yourself as an it girl and you want to be graded on some man's scorecard, getting a high ranking. Some women are down with that game for one reason or the other. You could be wanting to be a pageant contestant. You could be, part of the adult entertainment culture. Whatever the case may be. Some women take very fine care of themselves because it's all about self-love. It's not about ranking on some man's scorecard. And a lot of the women that he would find high ranking or high value would be insulted with his messaging. Not everyone's heard of him. And, come on. A lot of men don't like his messaging either, but a lot of men love it. Hey, it's to each his own. People are going to do what they do, but I really do understand why a lot of men are drawn to him. And ranking systems are not bad. They're used all the time. Even on cooking shows, you show up with your best dish. But what matters are the heart. Most people don't like the idea of unions and romance and the spirituality of love being strictly based on analytics as a baseline, like an item with a ticket price that's even getting depreciated like a piece of equipment. I mean, like something you grabbing off the store shelf, like a computer or something. Hey, but that was his thing, being cold, being straight, being hard, calculating. He was intentional about the way he came off. It kind of reminds you of like a Scrooge character, the Scrooge character. But when he wanted to, he would switch gears and he toned down his message to a more reasonable level. Like when he was being interviewed, when I saw him in an interview, actually, I don't think that was the Vlad interview. I saw him in an interview and I'm like, he's behaving himself, but I know when he's doing his show, this man, I can imagine when he's doing his show, he's just more out the box. It was a female that was interviewing him and he didn't come, he was kind of behaved, but not the best behavior. But my interest in him ended with that one clip. Never tuned into his channel until his passing, because I really did feel like, wow, this is really sad. He's talented, not really my cup of tea, but undeniable talent. And, successful with this persona that he used. It was very impressive. I was impressed with him. Beyond the controversy that he aroused. So I began to watch him more in the last week since his passing. Like I said, curious about what happened to him. Did he overexert himself? What happened to this man? And I did notice that he was drinking Red Bull in a number of shots. And strangely enough, this is a concern that people have with Britney Spears, all these Red Bulls. We know we're supposed to watch our caffeine intake. I drink coffee too. But to see that Kevin Samuels pissed off so many females, I wasn't surprised. But how far he went with his insults, I was kind of disappointed. It's like, really, you want to play that role? Such a distinguished looking gentleman. But hey, he meant to be shocking. So there should have been no surprise with me. But hey, he was doing him. And I actually think if Kevin had lived longer, I believe that eventually his messaging would have softened up, lightened up a little bit. Maybe it would have become more healing. But I think that behind the scenes in Kevin's own life, he was overcoming his own traumas. Even though he asks people about their position, if they're getting counseling or whatever, even though he asked a number of people if they were getting therapy, I think he was going through his own healing. Hey, we all got to heal. This life is not easy. But I did gather that from his interview that this guy, he's a complex, he was a complex man. But the man had a lot of get up and go. That's what my great grandmother would say. He had a lot of get up and go. I think it would have been really interesting to see him develop over the years, but he is now the dearly departed, gone but not forgotten, controversial, complex man. Hey, I thank you for joining me. The Kevin Samuels Effect. Like, share, and subscribe. That's the only way I can keep doing this and follow up with these stories. Thank you so much for joining me. Peace.